should be encouraged to come lower. I know. Sit down.
Welcome back to the League of Women Voters Forum for the Chico Unified School District Board of Trustees. The board is elected by the community to provide leadership and citizen oversight of the district's schools. The board shall work with the superintendent to fulfill its major roles, which include setting a direction for the district, providing a basic organizational structure for the district by establishing policies, ensuring accountability, providing community leadership on behalf of the district in public education. The board shall consist of 5 members whose terms shall be staggered so that, as nearly as practicable, 1/2 of the members shall be elected in each even-numbered year. Each member of the governing board may elect to receive the maximum monthly compensation as provided for in Education Code 35120 in any school district in which the average daily attendance for the prior school year exceeded 400,000. Each member of the City Board of Education or the governing board of the district who actually attends all meetings held may receive as compensation for his or her services a sum not to exceed $2,000 per month. Board members may elect to participate in the health and welfare benefits program provided for the district employees. Candidates are Kathy Kaiser, Tom Lando, Gary Lustahl, and Eileen Robinson. They are sitting in the order of opening statements. Ground rules for the forum are the same. Our time with the candidates for the School District Board of Trustees will be approximately 1 hour. Please hold your applause until we have thanked the candidates for their participation. We once again have Asia Shiraga with the Chico News and Review, and for the Chico Enterprise Record, Laura Ursini. Candidates, you may now begin your 1-minute opening statement. We will begin with Ms. Kaiser.
If my mic is on, just one small correction. We only get $400 a month. We have 12,000 students. So I've been on the Chico Unified School Board for 3 terms, a total of 12 years. And I started when my oldest granddaughter started at Marsh, and I had finished as the first faculty trustee ever for the CSU appointed by the governor. So that was a 2-year term, and when that ended, I saw some disparities between how the schools were approaching curriculum and what the state was asking the school districts to do. That has continued to be a very keen focus of mine, to connect the K-12 system's expectations with the expectations of graduating and going to higher ed, or graduating and going into a well-paid job. The other aspect that I've been very experienced in is facilities. Thank you.
Mr. Lando.
Hi, nice to see you all out there. My name is Tom Lando, as she said. I am up here because I am a parent and I'm a teacher. And I have a young son who is going to who will start attending Chico Unified soon. And I am sure that Chico Unified can be a really world-class school district, and I'm worried that it's not right now. We have some schools that are performing very, very well and some that are performing very poorly. I don't think that's fair to any of the students. I'd like to focus on shifting more decision-making responsibility from the district office down to the principals and the teachers who see our students every day, to make sure that education in Chico is excellent and equitable for everyone.
Mr. Lustahl.
Good evening. My name is Gary Lustahl. I've been on the board now for the past 4 years. I completed my first term. Prior to that, I was on the Measure E committee for 2 years, learning about the different bond measures and how the district uses that money for facilities and building. So that is a total of 6 years that I've been working with the district. I have 3 grown children. 2 of them graduated from Chico High School, and I have a daughter who graduated from Pleasant Valley High School. So I have seen how our school district has been very successful with students, their accomplishments, just in my own family. So I am running again because I want to continue the work that the school district has performed in the last 4 to 6 years. We are on a roll, lots of projects, lots of new programs, and I'm excited about it. So thank you very much.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen Robinson, and I've been involved with Chico Unified School District since 1972, when I was 4 years old. That's a joke. I was a clerical employee from 1973 until 2002, when I retired from Chico Unified. And after being disconnected from the school district for a period of years, I realized there was something substantial missing from my life, and that was being involved with public education. So I ran for the school board and was elected in 2010 and have served for 8 years. I have seen the ups and downs of this school district over decades. Right now, we were in one of those up stages. We have support from the community for our building projects. We have support from our staff that is providing top-notch education in all of our programs, from CTE to advanced placement to some of our special education programs that are groundbreaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first question will come from Ms. Shiraga of the News and Review.
Thank you. Whoa, that was loud, sorry. So my question is, as the CNNR recently reported, there are more than 500 homeless students attending Chico Unified Schools. What's the district's role in addressing this societal issue?
We will start with Mr. Lando.
I couldn't hear you said.
We will start with Mr. Lando.
Oh, sorry. You heard it.
I did. As a teacher, I deal with a few students every year who are homeless, and it is one of the greatest impactors of a student's ability to succeed. I would encourage the district to look strongly at something like the full-service community school model. We do need to expend more resources and find more ways to support the base needs of our students, because they can't learn if they don't have a place to live or food security.
Mr. Lustal.
Yes, this is a problem that is growing in our community. One of the big things the school district is doing now is identifying these students. There is counseling that's available to help them. There is also the ability to provide meals for students. Trying to investigate and find out what the problem is what we are doing now. We are in the business of educating. It is real difficult to also be in the business of providing housing, but this is a large issue, and we're seeing it with more and more families living in cars, not having a place to live, and this is something that as a school district that we have to be aware of, and we're gathering data constantly to identify that we have these children and where they are and what we can provide for them.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, the number is in fact over 500 of the ones that we have identified and are reported. The problem is that because of the stigma of homelessness in any community, but right now, especially in this community, a lot of our parents and students don't report the situation that they're in. If they do report, or a teacher or a staff member becomes aware that a student is temporarily without a planned place to be every night, we have targeted case managers at each of our school sites now that will connect with that family to provide resources for how to connect with emergency shelters, emergency funds to help possibly keep them in their home before they are evicted. We have funded through our LCAP program elementary school counselors that are available to help with the trauma of being homeless or underhoused.
Ms. Kaiser.
So you've heard a number of the things that we do. It's critical that a student gets support. Again, the case managers and the elementary school counselors start that process. They do get transportation. We don't turn any kid down for lunch. If they can't pay, the district is covering it. There's no shame to that. We're also, with our Title I schools, able to provide after-school care, programming, ways for them to feel engaged. One of the most critical things is for that student to feel like somebody cares about how they're doing. And I think our teachers and our administrators have excelled at that. Those schools are, those students feel like the school includes them. In that sense, they have a home.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Ms. Ursini from the Chico Enterprise Record.
Thank you. We understand the district is looking at several years of deficits because of a compensation program that was adopted with priority. I understand that the district will be looking at ways to deal with the deficit early next year, discussing how to deal with it. What are your ideas on how to reduce the deficit?
We will start with Mr. Lustal.
Okay. The compensation package that we just proposed and that we'll be approving Wednesday night for teachers is something that we have been looking into for quite a few years. It's kind of like the analogy that I would give you is that we have saved up reserves to do this. And it's like buying a car. You know, you could do it two ways. You can go out and get a loan, or what you could do is you could save the money first. So the bulk of the money here is reserves that we've saved, and now we're ahead of the game to be able to offer that to the teachers and to our certified staff. So it's something that we are aware of and we know, and there will only need to be really slight changes because of the reserve money that we've saved ahead of time. It's the proper way that I think that all government agencies should operate, is to first have the money, then be able to offer the compensation package.
Ms. Robinson.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to hear who you're identifying. Thank you. Yes, this recent compensation package is going to put us into a trajectory of deficits over the next 3 years. We knew that when we put together the formula that allowed us to reach a 3-year agreement with our labor organizations within the district. It was what we knew was what our funding was going to be. Because we knew what our funding was going to be and what our reserves were, we knew we could afford the compensation package as long as we began to make cuts. The process and how we make cuts starts at the administrative level with recommendations coming out of our school sites, our administrators, to the superintendent, and to the board. So we get a variety of choices, and we judge the impact at the classroom level on our choices.
Ms. Kaiser.
The federal government had a study done which just released that teachers nationwide are losing pay equity for their education and their experience. And it's nationwide. It is causing huge reactions with teachers leaving their states, leaving their school districts, and unfortunately, many leaving the profession. We have worked on this very hard. We have an outstanding financial administrative team. They are working the numbers very hard. Gary noted that we saved this money out of one-time money and reserves. There's a quality teacher in every classroom in Chico Unified. Very few schools, districts can say that. Our ADA is stable or going up, so we're not a declining school district. And we want to make sure that our teachers know that we value them.
Mr. Lando.
While there is going to be some need to cut, we have to look at this as an investment. We know that teachers have the greatest in-school effect of any factor on a student's outcomes. So we have to view this again as an investment in good teachers. We have great teachers in Chico Unified. And to reduce the number of teachers who move from school to school or leave their profession, this was an important deal. That said, we do need to be careful stewards of the district and the public money. We need to be very careful about which programs we choose going on from here, to make sure that everything we do is rooted in good evidence and that we're not using any money wastefully, but that every cent we have is spent to help students learn.
And now a question from the audience. What is the appropriate role for charter schools in the Chico Unified School District? We will begin with Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, Chico Unified does have, I believe now, 7 charters. And the appropriate role in the school district is for them to be out there doing the very best job they can to educate the students that are enrolled in their schools. Our charters have a lot more freedom to choose their method of delivery of education. We don't choose that for them. The school board has no issue at all with what design for education the charters choose. Our only role is to certify that the school is in fact meeting the need to educate the children. So our role is to evaluate whether or not the children are learning and whether or not the school is fiscally sound so that it's not going to be shut down. Beyond that, it's up to the individual boards and people that run those charters to decide how they are going to provide education to the students that choose to enroll in their programs.
Ms. Kaiser.
One of the most tragic days I ever had was when we had to close down Nord as a Chico Unified School and then Forest Ranch, followed by even a 3rd school, all because of declining enrollments. Those are now vibrant, very exciting charters because the community that they were in wanted them to stay and live by community support. So charters can have a really critical role. They don't play by the same rules as school districts do, but we are the ones who charter them. So we are forced to follow the mandate of the state and identify in each of the state areas whether they are meeting the state set goal. Education, financial stability, that they're operating in accordance with the law, the Brown Act, all of those things are extremely critical factors that we have to assess. This year, every single school will get a dashboard score, and we will all live or die by it. Thank you.
Mr. Lando.
Full disclosure, I do work for a local charter school, and I wouldn't be there if I didn't think it was the absolute best place for some students. The role of charter schools in our community is to make sure that no students who aren't being served to the utmost in traditional district-run schools have a place where they can get the best education possible. It is to act as innovators within the educational system. They are small enough and nimble enough that they can try new programs, and sometimes those are even adopted by districts. I will say that lately there's been some friction between the districts and some of the charters, and I think it's very important to all of us going forward that we find a way to put that behind us and work equally as partners serving all of the students here.
Mr. Lustal.
Charter schools are extremely important in the Chico Unified School District. As Ms. Kaiser has said that, or Dr. Kaiser, excuse me, that we have a role of looking over at the charter schools and seeing how they're performing, and that's how the state, has a guideline. But I take that one step farther. Every time a charter school comes up for review, I make sure that I go out and visit that charter school, see what the education style is like, and how things are going. One thing that I notice is that parents are extremely involved in those schools, and it means a lot to them, and they give a lot of input to the school, and you can see it in the children. Another thing that's been real important for this community in our Measure K bond, we also included the charter schools, and we were able to, we have approved many projects of clean water to resources for inside the classroom. Many thousands of dollars have been allocated from that bond for the charter schools.
Thank you. Our next question is from the League. In what ways can the school board best work with the teachers union? We'll start with Ms. Kaiser. Ms. Kaiser.
Oh, okay. School boards have a dual role because they are to be the negotiators with their unions. We actually have two, the teachers and the staff. But they're also the ones who have to make sure that the tools that the teachers have available to them in the classroom, we have put in new labs, we have technology, we are giving them training, that they understand not only about the tools available to them, but how best to use them. It's our intent that our administrators are helping those teachers be the absolute best they can. In that context, then, we should be able to have a collegial, professional exchange with those teacher unions and with our staff, because they're the ones that open and close the schools and serve the meals every single day. They're both critically important. I have been supported by both unions, and I appreciate that support. Thank you.
Mr. Orlando.
The role of the board in relationship to the teachers in the union is to maintain an environment in which our teachers, our experts, can do the very best work. That goes to making sure that they are compensated, making sure that they have the tools that they recognize and identify as being the tools that are most appropriate to serve their students. I was pleased to see that the board recently moved over to an interest-based bargaining system with the union, and that's produced some very good results. I would like to see the board move forward with that and continue to work in partnership with the union.
Mr. Lustal.
Yeah, the relationship between the teachers and admin and the board is extremely important. That needs to take front and center ground, because without a good relationship and without a good contract, then we can't pass that on to our students. So in the last 4 years, as I've been on the board, the interest-based bargaining method of coming up with a deal just started. And we came up with our first 3-year contract with that method, and that 3-year contract was the first one in 30 years that we've had, so without going to arbitration. So that is a very good sign of a good relationship with our teachers union as far as compensation goes. So moving in that direction, now there are many different MOUs, or those are, types of agreements that we make between the teachers union, and in the prior years we had none. In the last 2 years, we are up to almost 30 of them.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. When I ran for the school board in 2010 and was elected, we had been through a considerable number of years of strife with our union and our teachers. My goal in being elected was to bring interest-based bargaining to the process, which I had used successfully for a number of years in my role as the union person for the classified employees. What that tool has done is allowed us to have a very positive relationship with the teachers union. As a result of that, collaboration with the teachers on many of the issues that they find important to them beyond the bargaining table are taking place, with collaboration with deciding what kinds of programs and courses and things to highlight and bring forward, to utilizing teacher co-trainers.
Thank you. We will now take some more questions from the media. We will begin with Ms. Ursini of the Chico Enterprise Record.
Thank you. This is a two-part question. Do you agree with the decision to put police officers, armed police officers, on campus? And if so, how will you end up with funding after the 3-year grant finishes?
We'll begin with Mr. Lando.
In general, I think it was a bad decision by the board to take money that was granted by the state for tobacco abatement, tobacco use reduction, and choose to use it to hire police officers for the schools. While I know their will was good, there is no evidence that having armed police officers on campus makes students safer. It just isn't there. And when this grant runs out, we're going to have to look at either cutting a position or taking money away from some other program that does in fact impact student outcomes.
Mr. Lustahl.
I believe the policy to have the police officers is A1, we have to do it. I mean, we look around what's happening today in our society. People want to send their children to school, and they want them to be safe. Having the police officers is a step in the right direction to ensure that. Another thing is about funding it. We do have a 3-year grant. The great thing about that is we could start right now on figuring out how we're going to fund it. We could start saving money now to do that. We can look and see what other grants are available so that we can invest in those. Investing in the security and safety of our children is number one. Just in the little town of Tehama, we see what happened by having a good code red policy where schools could be shut down immediately and an intruder couldn't get in. So those are the types of things that I want. I want safety for the schools. I would like to see police officers there because it helps in that direction.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, I'm grateful that someone paid attention when that grant became available. Yes, it was funded out of the tobacco tax, but if anybody has ever been on a school site and listened to the number of students that are using the inhaled vaping in our schools, they would be alarmed. And then when you listen to the presentation from the anti-tobacco students at Marsh Junior High or Chico High School about the health risks to the students that are involved with the vaping, you understand the connection between the tax and the school resource officers. The other advantage of school resource officers is making the connection with the students and the families that police officers are not the bad guy, that they can be utilized in a positive way.
Ms. Kaiser.
We have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. The 5-year-old just started kindergarten. His mom can break into tears at the idea that he's there and is he safe. That's a pretty normal parent response. But when they see a police officer, they wave because they think it's so exciting. In the first day of the 3 SRO officers, they stopped 3 kids who were in severe health risk from drugs and got them to the hospital. Their first day. Then they recovered a stolen bicycle on the high school campus that was taken from an employee. Then they recovered computers that were stolen from Chico High. I think that their presence on our campus at our football games has made it so everybody comes and feels very, very safe at an event in a brand new stadium where they're a positive. Students talk to them, teachers talk to them, parents talk to them. We'll fund it.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Ms. Shiraga from the News and Review.
Thank you. Here's my question. Is Chico Unified doing enough to bring special education students into mainstream education?
We will start with Mr. Lustahl.
Well, you could always do more in that area. You know, the families of special needs, special ed students, my heart goes out to them. I visited the sites. I see severely handicapped students at our sites. It's something that you just want to help them in any which way you can. Right now, what happens at Chico Unified, we have unmandated or unfunded mandates that are brought on for the federal government, and we have to make sure that those mandates are met. So that money comes out of the general fund so that we can ensure that these students have the best of care and the best teachers possible. They're constantly having meetings with the parents so that they can, they're called IEPs, so that they can make plans and help those parents in any which way possible. We have great admin staff in this area, and they're always out there helping.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Yes, the special education program focuses on trying to do as much as possible to mainstream the students whose IEPs can direct them in that direction. Statistics will show that when a special education student is integrated with peers, they gain in their academic performance at a much faster rate than those students that are not mainstreamed with peers. It's also shown in the same statistics that the mainstream students also accelerate in their learning by being involved with helping with and tutoring and understanding what special education students are going through to struggle to learn. So it's a win-win situation. Yes, the IDEA federal legislation mandates that we provide quality education to the extent that each student is capable of receiving and growing with, and we do an excellent job with that in Chico Unified.
Ms. Kaiser.
I have a former student who suffered a head trauma, and with that he changed his career to being a special ed teacher. He has experienced discrimination in various different school districts in California because he always brought his students into the general population of students. Chico, I think, is so sound in that regard. We have students who work with special needs students. We have special needs students who participate in sports, who participate in leadership and performing arts, and who go on to be university students and very successful. They are all our students, and having them be successful is the goal of our educational system. It is expensive, and we are having right now a study about how to control those expenses, but we excel in this. In fact, some parents move here for that.
Mr. Lando.
I have to agree. I think that Chico Unified does an excellent job in maintaining a least restrictive environment for the vast majority of their special education students. I spent 2 years working as a special ed aide, actually, and it was such an amazing experience to see how those students were included and how many supports both Loma Vista and the district supplied to make sure that those students were receiving an excellent education.
Thank you. And now a question from the League. What will you do to provide additional support for elementary schools with larger populations of students from underprivileged backgrounds? We will begin with Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. It's statistically very well known that students with a population that needs additional help in order to succeed have to have it. Through our LCAP, our Local Controlled Accountability Plan, we target the kind of extra help and assistance to those schools and those students that's needed to bring their scores and things up at a higher rate than would be without the additional help. If you can't move a student forward because of their coming into the schools with an education level that doesn't include preschool, it is going to take a lot of extra help, and we provide aids in classrooms that supplement what's being done with the teacher and other supports within those high-need schools in order to make sure that those students are supported with the extra help that they need to succeed.
Ms. Kaiser.
This is unfortunately a statistics game that the state and the federal government play with us. It's one of the hardest things I have to explain to the international educators from around the world that I work with, because the feds and the state say you have to have 40% before you can become a Title I school and then get extra money. I think we have excelled in doing this, but it is a tremendous frustration to me to know that I might have a student who doesn't have resources, but they don't go to a Title I school, and that school can't do anything extra for them in terms of after school. I think in the classroom, we do a tremendous amount. I have to thank our volunteers We have reading pals at Citrus. We have people that come and provide assistance that is tremendously valuable for all our kids, but especially for kids who need greater help. Thank you.
Mr. Lando.
This is one of the most pressing issues facing Chico Unified. We need to find more services to support these students. Again, we need to look at the full-service community school model. There are extra grants and more funding out there from the federal level for schools that provide extra supports for basic needs for students, and we should be exploring that. We also, as she said, need to make sure that we are matching up the locational resources with the students who need them and identifying those students so that we can serve them as quickly and effectively as possible.
Mr. Lustal.
Yeah, this is a very important issue for the school district and the school board. We do attack it with trying to have more aides in classrooms, relieving those teachers so that they can help students that are needy. And this is a place where assessments really do come in to be very important. We need to know how these students are assessing, and we need to check those scores and be able to make quick changes right away so that we can have a plan that works, have a plan that helps those children succeed for the rest of their education.
Thank you. In order to conclude the forum on time, we'll take one more question. And that question is, what is the most pressing issue for local schools? We will start with Ms. Kaiser.
The context of an increasing student population, which we've had, yet being linked to the percentage of students that you have in one of the identified state groups, free and reduced lunch, English language learners, those special needs, those kinds of things kind of tie your hands about what it is that you can do. Right now, we are spending huge amounts of the bond money to meet the growth, to modernize the schools. Marigold is one of those. We've expanded all of our junior highs. We put in new science labs, and this year they were full. We just did it, and they're full. So we are chasing down the street a bouncing ball. How can we accommodate all our kids in quality facilities and be ahead of the growth? And it is something that we deal with on a constant level. Thank you.
Mr. Lando.
The single most pressing issue that Chico Unified faces right now is the disparity in the quality of education and performance across different elementary schools. We have some schools where scores are excellent, students are happy and safe and performing great, and we have some where that's simply not the case. There is no easy solution to that, except looking very carefully at which programs we are using on which campuses and doing our utmost to engage the community and parents in schools where traditionally there is less of that engagement to help find out what their needs are and what we can do to help those students.
Mr. Lustal.
There's two hats to wear when you're a trustee, and I learned that right away when I came on the board. It's a business. And so there are business issues like double-digit growth in retirement funds, and also the growth of providing insurance to our employees. Those are there, and they're real, and they keep climbing. And the more you have to pay for that, the less you can put into the classroom. The other thing is that our test scores now, the state of California is going by growth. So you might have a school that, we have some of those, like Mr. Lando said, that are performing great, you know, real high. But the state is looking for growth, and so that's what we look to as a school board. We want to see growth at our different schools, and that's where we're aiming. Go for growth. We're not trying to make all the schools like the top school, but if we can continue inch by inch, growing and growing, that's where we're going to succeed.
Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. Pressing issues. The first most pressing issue is to remain fiscally solvent. Without fiscal solvency, you begin to have to make cuts, and that's not good. The second pressing issue is remaining flexible with your educational programs. Our employment needs and our technology needs, the changing nature of the workforce in the United States and abroad requires students that can take on a number of different careers with a variety of skills, and those skills need to be taught in many different areas. We have career technology education, STEM schools that specialize in science and technology and engineering and math. And we also have other programs that we get feedback from our local employers on what do they need in the way of skills for our students. And so those are the kinds of things that we target so that our students end up being of value to the entire community and the world.
Thank you all for your thoughtful answers. It is now time for closing statements. Ms. Robinson, you may begin with your 1-minute closing statement.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I've been with the school district in one capacity or another for a lot of years. And right now, it is an incredibly exciting time. We have a layer of qualified teachers that don't just meet minimum qualifications, they excel. I go into classrooms and the excitement and the energy between the teachers and the students and between the students and their fellow students is just electrifying. What is happening in our schools is positive and solid. And for the students that do need a little extra help, we are providing those extra helps quickly by, as Mr. DeSalle said, doing assessments that are immediate so that we don't have to wait for last year's state testing results to respond to where our students' educational needs are today.
Mr. Lustal.
It's an exciting time to be at Chico Unified School District. A lot has happened just in the last 4 years. You just have to drive around the town and look at the building that's taking place. We're replacing buildings that were put together in the 50s, and we're bringing them into the modern world. So our students are our #1 priority, and students see that. Students come up to me and thank me for the athletic fields upgrades that they have that are now #1 in the North State. Those types of things give the students a lot of confidence, and what they feel is that somebody cares about them. And we thank the voters for approving Measure K and all the things that go along with it. Career tech education. We have a $6 million grant that we received to administer to 2 or 3 counties, along right after that one was administered from Butte College, and the state entrusted us to do that. So lots of things are happening. I could go on and on to the different types of things, but my main thing is to have transparency for our school district and be fiscally responsible.
Ms. Kaiser.
We have now an academy that's online. Just go to the mall, Oak Ridge. It reaches any student that for whatever reason can't be in a regular classroom. We have elementary kids that make their own movies about science and are perfectly willing to show it to you and tell you why the science works. We have performing arts that are being invited to international competitions because they have such outstanding work. And we have teachers who would rather be teaching in the classroom when they're the top science teacher in the nation at our school than go somewhere else. So I think if you look at athletics, if you look at the performing arts, if you look at leadership, if you even look at decorate a cake, one of our international students won the state prize. So we are reaching out to make our students alive as learners.
Mr. Lando.
First, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. As a social studies teacher, I'm always excited when anyone shows up to these kind of things, so that's excellent. Our core stakeholders at our schools have to be our students, our families, and our teachers. And we need to refocus on getting input from them, on letting them make as many decisions as possible about the kind of education they get, whether that means input into board policy or forming charter schools as needed. We need to reduce and hopefully put a cap on the total amount of standardized testing we can do, because while that data is very valuable, we have to make room for our experts, our teachers, to teach. And that will be my focus. Thank you very much for your support.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Butte County, I want to thank all the candidates for participating in this forum for the CUSD Board of Trustees. The audience may now applaud. Thank you also to our media participants, timekeepers, question gatherers, and sorters. Thank you to the audience for being attentive and asking important questions. Please go to votersedge.org to learn about all the candidates, the propositions, and local measures. Voters Edge California is a league-sponsored website that offers every candidate in every race a cost-free place to post their candidacy and their positions. Obviously, remember to vote. Mail ballots come out on October 8th, and precinct balloting is on November 6th. Thank you all, and good night.